This is an 1830s slave cabin that is up on Airbnb.
And if you look at the reviews, they're all like 5 stars, and of course it's from white people. Hosts like that are gonna fuck around and find out, because some of us are really petty and will rent it intentionally.
The phrase involuntary relocation is used when we're talking about the slave trade. So I don't know if that's a fair representation of what we should be saying about that journey.
In a statement to KENS 5, the Texas Education Agency said, the State Board of Education voted unanimously to send the language back to be reworked.
And by giving our kids a sugar-coated version of history, we're going to impact them for the rest of their lives.
Senate Bill 3, which passed in 2021, dictates how slavery and race issues are taught in Texas public schools. The law states that slavery was not part of the true founding of the United States and was merely a deviation of American values. For Bobby Blunt, Northside ISD board member.
Because there's so many other challenges that we're also facing.
These conversations are considered a setback towards addressing learning achievement gaps.
There's going to be some negative things that people are going to have to learn, not only from the past, but also from the current.
For Corinne Reyes, history lesson.
Who told you that?
My family goes back 4 generations. And I have a fear of I did have a fear of black people, and the only reason is because the girl that got killed back in 1912 is related to me.
Okay. So let's clarify, there are millions of people watching who don't know how all of this started. Back in 1912, May was her name? May Crow was allegedly raped by 3 black men.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, I think it was September 8th, 1912, the 3 black men were lynched, hanged. And at that time, September 23rd, I think, as of September 23rd, all the black people were told to get out of town and were run out of this town. And since 1912, that's the story I read. If I'm inaccurate, please tell me. Since 1912, September 1912, there have not been any black people living in this community. Is that accurate? Yes.
I understand they weren't run out. I understand that they left over a period of time. It's not as though they just all of a sudden...
You can imagine that in 1912, if a white woman has been raped by 3 black men, that the feeling of the black people living there in that community at that time was not that we're quite welcome and this is a nice place to be right now.
It was a teenage girl.
Okay.
And my grandfather watched the whole thing.
Okay.
He told me about it. And I had this fear of black people.
He watched the rape?
No, he didn't watch the rape. He watched the hanging.
Okay, watched the hanging.
Clarify that, please.
Okay. I was going to say, if he watched, why didn't your grandpa do something? Go ahead.
He watched the hanging. He was 16 at the time. And I had this fear put into me because I was told the stories. Then I moved to West Georgia College to go to college. And I got to live right beside them. And I found out they
right
were
beside black people?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll finish this story in just a moment. Back in a moment. Hutch? Yes, you wanted to finish telling us your story.
I lived right beside them. And I found they weren't no different from me. Now I go to DeVry Institute of Technology in Decatur, Georgia. And I have black friends there. They respect me, and I respect them. And I have to honestly say, I would trust some of those black people more than I would some white people up here, and the other way around.
Okay.
What's a history fact that just gets you choked up every time?
North Carolina had a eugenics program where the sole purpose was to breed out black people. Over 7,600 African-American men and women were forcibly sterilized between the years of 1929 and 1974, making them a generation of people that were not able to reproduce or even conceive children.
Black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery.
It is so bizarre to me how the Asian American community does this.
Oh, before any of you guys come at me, I'm just as Asian as she is.
I have seen this with non-black people of color, specifically in the Asian community, where they equate their experience with the black experience when they're just not even comparable. To say that you can speak on slavery because it has happened everywhere, even though you are living in the United States. When the anatomy of government, the Constitution, was all synthesized during an era when the economy depended upon slavery, specifically of black people, language like this is just so unbelievably harmful. I'm not saying that we didn't struggle, but to play this weird game of oppression Olympics when we immigrated more recently, where the building blocks of this country did not incorporate us or take us into consideration and were essentially built upon the downfall of one specific community, you're weird for that. You're weird for that.
Unpacking right now is why is it that we consistently have these mass shootings where these white kids are arrested without incident, but a black man is brutalized or killed for just DWB? The number one reason that an officer cites when he has just killed a black man is that he felt fear for his safety. But why don't you feel fear when you are arresting somebody who you know has just murdered multiple people? We're going to have to go way back into time for this one. So after slavery ended, this was the opportunity for America to turn around and admit all the lies they had made up in order to justify slavery in the first place, right? Because how do you justify enslavement? The only way that's possible is through their total dehumanization. This is a fun one. Scientific racism. Scientists would publish articles that the white brain was genetically superior and the black brain was genetically inferior and was a threat to white society if left unoppressed. Western education, media, the news, books, movies, every form was used to reinforce the narrative that white was superior and black was dangerous. There was never a period of time where the US government was like, you know what? We lied. So even though you may have unenslaved people, there is debate around whether you take credit for that or not. What you never did is undefame a people. That implicit bias lives on in the collective psyche of white supremacists. So when they do come across a black man in a traffic stop, their biological automatic nervous system response is that I have to shoot him out of fear for my safety. Do you see how that works? So what is the solution? The solution is a class action lawsuit by the entire black community against the US government, even though we need to find a workaround because of the 11th Amendment, for defamation. Because, you know, the elements of defamation are quite simple. A false statement was made, the statement was published, and the person that the publication was made about suffered an injury. Now, where can I think of a couple injuries to justify that? Wrongful death, use of excessive force, loss of employment, total deprivation of human constitutional rights. When you rack up these damages over a couple of centuries, this is starting to look like a couple $100 billion, right? So what do we call these damages? Yeah, see, what we call these damages is reparations.
Grabbing your purse in an elevator because a light-skinned male boarded the elevator with you, that's a little racist.
You know,
why do you feel like I know that I give off the bad boy vibe, right? Why do you grab the person when he gets on and not when I get on? Right? The likelihood is that I'm probably the one that would grab it more than him.
It's definitely stereotyping. It's definitely, they're stereotyping across the board.
Too, so I
Bro, what? What?
These two are some of the worst human beings alive on the planet right now.
20 women listed in the federal lawsuit call it a night of terror at the Clark County Jail, an alleged attack by male prisoners uninterrupted for hours.
They're downplaying it and overcomplicating it. The sheriff and the corrections officers at Clark County Jail sold the female inmates to the male inmates.
Women were harassed, sexually assaulted, threatened, and completely terrified. When I met with each and every one of these women, and they broke down repeatedly, you get an impression and understanding of what these women went through.
I just want to emphasize that this is a jail, not a prison, so half of these inmates probably haven't been found guilty of anything and just awaiting trial. So imagine your mom or your sister or your own daughter just gets arrested for like a traffic violation and they're awaiting trial when all of a sudden the corrections officer sells access to her cell to a bunch of violent inmates. And we know the inmates were violent because they threatened the lives of the females that they yelled, screamed, or pressed the fire alarm. So for 12 hours they were SA'd, and when everything was done, the corrections officers tried to cover it up by punishing the females and putting them on lockdown and leaving the lights on for 72 hours so they couldn't sleep. By the way, you wanna know why this douchebag's picture is so clear? It's because he was on a TV reality show for cops. The DA of Clark County basically has one fall guy for everything, and all the other corrections officers gets to keep their job.
Whites say they would object to busing Negro students to better schools. We found when it comes to ways for the Negro to protest for what he wants, most whites are against Negro picketing or boycotting. In fact, against anything other than holding a protest meeting. When Negroes riot in our ghettos, what is to blame? The causes mentioned most often by whites have to do with ghetto conditions. But on the other hand, great numbers of whites say it is largely because of a communist plot, or that it's mostly young kids looking for excitement, or that it's a way for Negroes to steal things and not get caught. More than a third of whites say that when a riot occurs, it would be a good idea for police to shoot one or two rioters as examples to the rest.
Shoot to kill. If they're old enough to violate law, shoot them. If it's my own kid, I'd say shoot him. He deserves it. He should obey law. If there's laws for us, there's laws for Negroes. Let them start obeying them.
They should be shot. That's the only way we can stop them. I can't see where the policeman has to stand there and just hold his gun in his hand. For what? They're breaking the law, aren't they?
To review, what can we conclude about the degrees of white opposition to equality and integration for the Negro? About half of the whites in our survey say they do not believe most whites want equality. About 1/2 of whites deny that discrimination is the main reason for holding back the Negro. About 1/2 of whites say they do not want Negro families moving into all-white neighborhoods. What about feelings of superiority to the Negro? About 14% of whites say that whites are born innately superior to Negroes, and about 43% of whites say the Negro is not as civilized as whites. What about attitudes that may reflect a degree of white hostility? About 1/3 of whites believe that one or two rioters, and rioters today for the most part means Negro, should be shot as an example to the rest, meaning immediate punishment without due process of law, contrary to American tradition. And finally, about 1/3 of whites believes that the best solution to the race problem would be the establishment of a completely separate country for American Negroes.
Static Shock was corny for about 3 episodes. And they did that episode where Richie's dad was super racist.
What your son heard, Hawkins. I wasn't talking about him.
No, you were talking about his kind, that's all. Well, I know your kind, Foley. I've seen your kind all my life. A fine, upstanding bigot. His nose so close to the grindstone he can't see anything else. Meanwhile, the world changes and grows, and he's blind to it. Ignorant. And proud of that, too. And you know the worst part?
I'm sure you'll tell me.
You've got a terrific son. One of the best and brightest around. And because of the way you are, you'll never really know him. Richie ran away from you a long time ago, Foley. And who can blame him?
And I was like, oh, this got real quick. And then it was great after that.
Oh, really? I haven't watched Static Shock in so long.
It wasn't like they were corny one-liners or whatever here and there, but it was not a kid show quickly, I feel like. Okay.
Did you know that Oregon hated black people so much that they made it illegal to be black in the state of Oregon?
Yes, I did, and that's why I don't be listening to white people when they're like, well, at least the North and the West are less racist. Like, those sundown towns are only in the South. Bitch, Oregon was a whole-ass sundown state. Like, a lot of these states that y'all are bragging about don't have any problem with black people. It's states where you can easily live without having ever seen a black person. Like, that's why you don't see the racism, bro.
Y'all, this story is disgusting, it is harrowing, and it is incredibly sad. But let me tell you one thing it's not. It is not in the least bit surprising. If you know me or have been following my work, then you know that I studied abroad in Italy. And during that time, I experienced some of the most ridiculous racist incidents that I have ever experienced in my entire life. And that includes growing up in the South. And one of those incidents include me being on a crowded beach with a group of my friends, including one other black woman, where an Italian man threw beer at us, and by us I mean me and the other black woman, and then proceeded to manhandle my other black woman friend, and then called us disgusting black women on a sea crowded with white people, and not one person did a thing. Now, I already know that there's going to be some people here like, but what did you do to him? There must have been something that you did. First of all, read the story on the New York Times that I wrote. Second of all, he was upset with the white girls that we were with who didn't want anything to do with him. He was flirting with them. So instead of coming at the white girls, he came at me and the black woman. Two people that he knew that nobody would be out there trying to help. So while we can't say that this attack was based solely on race, Italy does have a history of documented racist attacks against Black people. And the blatant disregard for this man's life by both the assailant and the onlookers calls to question whether or not the same thing would have happened if he were white.
Did you know that Oregon hated Black people so much that they made it illegal to be Black in the state of Oregon? That's right, while the state was anti-slavery, they were also anti-Black. Through a set of laws called the Oregon Black Exclusion Laws, they criminalized Blackness in the state of Oregon. So while Oregon wasn't a part of the South, this behavior is very much in line with the founding of the state of Oregon. Many of the early white settlers in the state of Oregon actually came from southern states, such as Missouri, which had exclusion laws. They justified anti-slavery laws by saying that it would eliminate political controversy. And they justified anti-Black laws by saying that settlements of free slaves would compete for power with the white people. And during the Civil War, Oregon was the only state that was permitted to enter the Union with an exclusion law. The citizens of Oregon fought for Black people to have rights in every state but theirs.
They'll never be able to take mine. They can take yours off the wall. They'd have to fucking cut mine out of me.
Somebody found his Facebook page and apparently he's from Ohio. So not only does he have a flag of a racist tattoo that symbolizes literal fucking losers, because the Confederacy lost, you're celebrating second place, but you're also from Ohio, which was not in the Confederacy.
Look how they're mistreating the African refugees. Look how they're mistreating the African refugees. They've just helped a whole host of Ukrainian refugees, but they can't help the African refugees. How unfair. Shame on the world.
This white girl once asked, why do you always focus so much on Black and brown undocumented immigrants and never mention any of the white undocumented ones? This is why.
Last night I was contacted by several parents whose children attend this school, Haggard Middle School in Plano, Texas. They were so outraged. I'm not going to use any names in this video because then it can't be struck for harassment or bullying. But the school in question is Haggard Middle School in Plano, Texas. And the situation was a little boy, a person of color, was forced to drink 4 of his white teammates' urine while they stood around him and screamed, "Cry, N-word, cry," and caught it all on video. Several parents that attended the school are outraged because the school board, the school, and the police department haven't done enough to seek justice for this little boy. So I am asking you all to screen record this video as well as duet it and get it as far as you can this morning, so they cannot take it down. Please, this little boy deserves his justice. Justice, Black Lives Matter.
Cincinnati police officer Rose Valentino has been suspended after her body camera caught her using horrendous language while stuck in traffic this past April. An internal investigations report indicated that on April 5th, Officer Valentino was on duty in a marked police car and went to complete a report at the District 3 police station. As she pulled into the station's driveway, she saw cars lined up waiting to pick up students from Western Hills University High School. Officer Valentino tried activating her lights and siren to get vehicles to move and became angry when no one complied. After reportedly putting her window down, telling drivers to move, a black male student allegedly walked by, giving her the middle finger. Officer Valentino then became angry and was heard on her own body camera saying the N-word in response to the student. Part of what she said was, "Effing N-word, I effing hate them." According to Officer Valentino, she was frustrated due to traffic and people not taking her seriously. She also blamed her language on being desensitized by music and hearing people talk on the street. As of now, this officer of reportedly 14 years is on desk duty and awaits an administrative hearing. For over a decade, there was a police officer with this mentality roaming the streets, and you wonder why black folk are apprehensive about law enforcement. This is ridiculous.
On this date in 1946, Maceo Snipes was murdered by a mob of white men in Butler, Georgia. He was a 37-year-old veteran who made the mistake of voting in an all-white election. Running in the election, former Georgia Governor Eugene Talmadge proclaimed, "The South loves the Negro in his place, but his place is at the back door." He won by receiving every vote except one. Members of the KKK determined Maceo Snipes had to be the lone vote and shot him at his home while having dinner with his mother. He survived a walk several miles to a hospital, as well as the hospital denying him a blood transfusion on account of them not having any black blood. Maceo passed away 2 days later on July 20th. Someone admitted to the murder but was let off on self-defense. I often say history wasn't very far away. My grandmother was born in 1946. To stay up on your hidden history, lock in with me.
I always say this, you know, racism still exists. Even though I have a diverse staff, racism still exists. You take Floyd Mayweather, flamboyant, flashy, outgoing, outspoken. You know what they say? He's cocky, he's arrogant, he's unappreciative. But then we take Conor McGregor, takes my whole blueprint. He's in the MMA, takes my whole blueprint, and they praise him. Whereas
the reason why I authored this is just to make sure that both sides are always being taught to the students.
Oh my God.
But it specifically says anti-racism is not allowed. So
okay,
racism.
So to go back to the anti-racism, when we're talking about anti-racism, I know when you look up the definition of it, it says, you know, when you oppose racism. Well, folks, we really want to have an open discussion, but there is no way to have an open discussion with all the chitter chatter and the laughing. And we're trying to talk. I heard what everybody said earlier about the lack of communication. I totally agree with everybody. We can do a much better job communicating. But it isn't funny. We're brand new. It's like drinking from a fire hose. We are trying our best.
They just wanted to ride the slide one last time at Deep River Water Park in Crown Point, Indiana before they left. One employee said it was okay. Another one said they couldn't. So they got into a verbal altercation and the lifeguard claimed that he got pushed. The cops came and tackled both of them, forcing them to land face first on the concrete, including this young lady right here who had on a swimsuit. The family was notified, and when they arrived at the front gate at the park, they saw this. They saw their son, their brother, being tortured using his own locks. The cop had his head pressed up against a pole and he was yanking his locks as if he was trying to tie them around that pole. At that point, the father instructed one of the brothers to go back to the car, but then he got followed by one of the cops. That cop said that he was assaulted by that boy, so then he went up to the car. He was joined by other cops who had their guns drawn. They broke into the car, yanked two teens out, threw them on the ground. They then beat them, arrested them, charged them with this, and forced them to spend over 2 days in jail without contact with their parents.
First off, I want to give a big trigger warning for some of the stuff I'm about to talk about because it's not easy to talk about, so I know it's not easy to hear. But when we don't talk about our history, we will repeat it. And this video, the things I'm going to talk about, is a prime example of that. And please watch until the end so you can see exactly what I mean. Now, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had the scramble for Africa. Right here, it's kind of hard to see what it says, but this was Germany's colony. So Southwest Africa, which is today known as Namibia. And so what happened is what always happens. People get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and people started to fight back. So you have two main groups involved here, the Herero people and the Nama people. The Herero group decided to revolt, and about 100 colonizers were unalived, right? Then you have a man come in who said, I'm going to squash all this. And that's this man. He came in commanding a bunch of troops from Germany and rounded up a bunch of people, put them into concentration camps. And now the people that were put into concentration camps were the ones that had survived the brutality that they were facing prior to that, because they were exterminating people. A direct quote from him is,
A humane war cannot be waged against those who are not human. He told his troops to be especially harsh to the women and children. So thousands of people from the Herero ethnic group and the Nama ethnic group were rounded up and taken to these concentration camps where they were sexually assaulted, starved. There's even one particular story about a woman who was just basically emaciated on the ground, crawling up to someone, begging for water. One of the guards took out his gun and shot at her 5 times. 2 of the bullets hit her and she died that night. Please pause to read and remember my trigger warning, because this is what got me. And not much gets to me, but this did. And hold on. You're probably thinking, what's the purpose of them having the women do that, right? Besides the cruelty of it, what's the point? So they would take those remains and those skulls and send them back to Germany to be studied. And now they were being studied by a doctor. Dr. Fisher studied those skulls and used them as evidence to say that there are certain groups that are inferior to others. And he even studied the children that came about from the sexual assault of the women by the German colonizers at the camps. And so he writes all this stuff in a book. He writes about his findings. He's a very prominent physician at the time. However, in 1923, there's a man in prison who decides to read some of his work about race and about the differences between the races. This is that man. He used Dr. Fisher's work as a foundation for his thoughts on race and Aryan and white supremacy. We choose to ignore things like this. We get things like this. Know your history or it will repeat itself.
Is running a death sentence?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Why does he run?
Why'd he get shot 60 times?
Because I would have shot him 60 times or 70 times. Well, I understand. They thought
you would have shot someone that was running away from you 70 times, right? Because if you did that, Brad, you would be in jail right now. You wouldn't be on a paid vacation like 8 Akron police officers are.
They're never taught right from wrong.
Who is they?
Most of them are not taught right from wrong.
Who's they?
And I think it's an absolute joke that
Who's they?
The police get blamed for this and that and all this kind of
Who is
stuff.
they?
Oh, they don't know who in the hell is going to shoot at them. These guys run out of their cars and they get shot, and then, oh, the police are bad guys.
What about, a Philandro Castile who was reaching for his wallet, but the cop was so scared that he shot him point blank? He didn't run. He was just following police orders. But the color of a person's skin is too scary sometimes for officers here in America.
All right.
I mean, you know that's true.
I didn't say it's not true. I'm just saying, why don't the people, when they're told to pull over, they're supposed to put their hands on the dash and obey the orders, do it. They don't.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not in their mind frame. I have no clue why they don't stop. I can't tell them to stop. Yes, if I get pulled over, I'm stopping. I'm obeying orders. But I also know if somebody is running away from the police, look at their license plate. Look at their license plate, issue a warrant, arrest them at a later time. Don't put 60 bullets into their body as they run away from you.
Well, I'm sorry. I as far as I knew, this gentleman, the young lad who got shot at them, is what I was told.
The police believe that he fired one shot from his vehicle, but Akron police, they failed to have dash cam videos. So the only thing that they're going off of right now is a grainy video from an ODOT tower cam, and they have that. But then now we have to wait to see if there's any gunshot residue on Jalen Walker's hands. And I'll tell you this, if there's no gunshot residue on Jalen Walker's hands, all 8 of those Akron police officers should be prosecuted and charged immediately, right?
Agree with that.
What do you say?
But anyhow, my whole point is, just please stop. Don't run. Just stop and obey.
It's recently been reported that the chief of police from the Farmington Hills Police Department, a suburb of Detroit, has admitted to only using paper targets of black men at their firearm range. Lord have mercy. The targets were reportedly discovered during a Boy Scout troops tour of the police department. And get this, folks, their police chief, Jeff King, is asking the public for forgiveness? Okay. Farmington Hills Mayor Vicky Barnett has claimed that all of the targets have been removed, and the city, which is 20% black, plans to conduct a legal review. Crazy thing is, Kevin Clark, a black Farmington Hills police officer, has claimed that the department uses a variety of targets to better address implicit bias. However, this was proven to be untrue. My goodness. How much self-hate must you have to try and cover up for a department that uses people like you for target practice? Makes you think about post-traumatic slavery disorder, or this obsession with Eurocentricity in the US. My question is, should actual pictures of people be used at all at these ranges? How many other police departments take part in these tactics? Could this help explain why black men are often unjustly unalived? Tune in next time to This Country is Ghetto.
Y'all gotta see this. This is Ohio Senate candidate Josh Mandel, and this is an ad that he just dropped.
Critical race theory is crap.
Martin Luther King marched right here, so skin color wouldn't matter. I didn't do 2 tours in Anbar province, fighting alongside Marines of every color, to come home and be called a racist.
Hold up, y'all. Let's look a little bit closer to this. Okay, so this is the whole I have black friends, I'm not racist, right? Oh, but wait, let's look a little closer. Now you know those are not your hands, sir. I know damn well this man did not Photoshop his white face on that black body. Josh Mandel in Ohio, y'all have some explaining to do because you're not sending your best. And by the way, speaking of critical race theory, the person who brought it into mainstream attention was Christopher Rufo. And he said the goal is to have the public read something crazy in the newspaper and immediately think critical race theory, to use that as a label for anything racist white people don't like.
Okay, by now you've probably already seen the Sesame Place incident where Rosita did not hug the little black kids, okay? Do not scroll away from this video. Watch the whole 1:30. I'm making a point, okay? Now, here's the video. Rosita says hello to some kid, sees the white lady, high fives, then says no to somebody, looks right at the kids, says no, okay? On the Instagram, Sesame Place is like, no, that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? The performers can't really see people because they're up high. Okay, that's not what we saw in the video. Not at all. But let's say for the sake of argument, that's what happened. Okay, so explain the rest of these videos. Little black boy, nah, I ain't gonna hug little black boy. He's heartbroken. Yeah, he's heartbroken to me. Rosita looking directly at this kid, dance, hug the other girl, walk past this kid. Now, let's slow it down. Does it look like she pulls her arm away right here? Walk away. Is that a pull away? It looked like a pull away to me. Looked like a pull away. All right, here comes another one. Little girl, just walk by her. Handler don't help. Now, this is just, wow. I don't know who this character is, but what is this? What are you doing to the baby? Why are you knocking the baby down? What? Now, we said hug, not shove. Hug, not shove. Now, this is the worst. Look at this. This Bert gonna slap the person. Bert done slap the baby. Bert slapped the baby. Bert slapped the baby. Sesame Place finally apologized. They said, my bad, we ain't do that. What's going on? And Sesame Street was like, we don't even work with them like that.
Did you get it? Did you get it? Nigga, get it? Nigga, put me on Facebook. Come on. I will. Dox me. Come to my house. Oh, I don't need to come to your house, sweetie. I wish you would. You shouldn't have freed your phone. She's kept you in space. Yeah, you heard it. What, you want to make me some more famous? Go ahead. Why are y'all even coming over here with hate? Why is she calling me here? I don't know. Maybe she's a hate agitator like you. Oh, I didn't agitate anybody, though. Go talk to your college professor. Oh. Hey, what's the name of your organization? I'll put you out. I got 180,000 likes. Oh, no, thank you. Why are you coming through here? Because I'm black, and I can. Oh. The backs. I didn't do your faces.
Are you pro-slavery or against slavery? I have no comment, but thank you for the interview. I'll give you one more chance. Pro or anti-slavery? No comment. I'll give you one more opportunity to say if you're pro or anti-slavery. No comment. All right, well, there you have it.
That was Jason Selvig from the Good Liars at the NRA conference, where he gave an obvious racist, literally multiple opportunities to say that he's against slavery, but he just couldn't get himself to do it. Some people might watch that video and find it shocking. I watch that video and I think it's just another day in America. So that's where we're headed. It's just, this is the country we live in. And unless we have actual bold leaders who not only want to pass the right legislation, but want to fundamentally reform and change our institutions, we're screwed. That is the reality of the situation.
You know, I got people saying I'm a racist because I say all lives matter. What about you, son? You believe all this Black Lives Matter stuff? Well, I'm black, so of course my life matters to me. Does my black life matter to you? All lives matter to me, son. Okay, what about blue lives? Do those matter to you? Well, of course blue lives matter to me, son. Those cops are out there putting their lives on the line. Fair enough. What about white lives? Do white lives matter to you? Well, yeah, white lives matter to me. Okay, so what about black lives? Do black lives matter to you? All lives matter to me, son. Okay, you realize when I say do blue lives matter, you say yes, blue lives matter. When I say do white lives matter, you say yes, white lives matter. But when I say do black lives matter, you say all lives matter. You see the problem here? Come on, son, you know what I mean. Nope.
I think this is the most ridiculous thing that has ever happened. They're just as free as we are. They have the same opportunity to work and to build their part of the town just the same as we have. I just don't understand it and don't approve of it. I'm going to stand up for my rights.
Jim Knight with WALB Television News. We're soliciting the views of Albany people on the Civil Rights Bill. Would you like to give us your views?
Well, of course, being a Southerner, I'm not for it at all.
What I'd have to say wouldn't be fit to go on air. I don't like it. I think it's trying to put something on us that we don't want.
I see.
We ought to have a national election on it rather than just letting 9 men tell us what we got to do.
Well, I sure don't like it, that's for sure.
Do you feel this will have any effect on your life directly?
I imagine it will.
Thank you very much.
I'm afraid we might have to get next door to it.
Do y'all see this video of this young boy coming to this black couple's house with a whip, striking the house with a whip, telling their daughter to come outside? As a parent, what am I supposed to do with this? Then I go to the parent's house and tell them what happened, and the parent comes outside with a gun, tells me get off their property. As a parent, what am I supposed to do with this? Because it's one thing you come to my house looking for my kid. Kids do that. They fight, whatever. You try to break it up, whatever. But you came with a whip. Like, you came with some slavery references. Like, you didn't come with a stick or something like that or just come, like, mobbed up. You came with a whip. What am I supposed to do with this? As a parent, how do I deal with this? Like, if the cop's not going to do nothing, this guy's coming outside with a gun. As a parent, what am I supposed to do with this?
So these people say anything they want to say about us, and this is how it was. So one day, the master sergeant, we had formation. The master sergeant goes, Airman Walker, this is one of the other guys there. How come when your friends call you nigger, you don't get mad, but when I do, you get upset? And this is in front of 62 people. We all sitting there like, and guess how it came to light that happened. It was a black female. She was one of the commanders over us.
Oh, okay.
And the other 3 were white males. She didn't say anything. It took a white airman that went and reported it to Equal Opportunity that they're harassing these 3 black guys and nobody's saying anything about it.
Wow.
None of us couldn't say, we gonna say something. We like,
it's never happened. It never happened.
And it took a white person to go, but that guy asked like in front of everybody, like, when your friends call you a nigga, you don't get mad, but when I do, you get upset. We like,
so you're traumatized.
Yeah, I'm traumatized, and when I filed my claim, I've got PTSD. 100% traumatized by being called nigga.
Yeah, real talk.
I had to record this video twice because when I first saw this comment, I was absolutely livid. But instead, we're going to use this as a teachable moment. This comment was left on a video about a store owner who was robbed, and the police broke his jaw and knocked out his tooth for no reason. So the reason why this is going to be a teachable moment is we're going to operate under the idea that you, sir, are not racist. You're complacent. And complacency is, if not as big, maybe even possibly a bigger danger than the straight up racist. So as you can see here, I use this article, which you can type into any machine that you have that has Google. The phone that you're using, the computer that you're using, all has access to the internet. You will see this article. Not only does that article have the complete video, which I had to shorten because of time constraints, but it also explains that that same officer has had a multitude of complaints against him. It also has links. It has a link to the original charges filed against him. All the charges were dropped because he didn't do anything. Not only was he a store owner, but he was a legal gun owner. He was a legal concealed permit holder. And anybody that has the, common sense to make a gun safe and lay it out in a safe, clear space for a cop to see it, I'm pretty sure is trying to do all the right things. You're also going to find a link to the charges and the lawsuit against that officer in the police department, where it also cites how many complaints against that officer there are and how many complaints against that whole entire department there are. And again, with all that being stated, in the original video I did, you are that complacent that even if you didn't believe what I said, you were too lazy to go back and look at any of that. You just rather take the officer at his face value. And here's the thing, we can show mountains of evidence. Mountains of it. You are too lazy and complacent to go back and look at anything. Instead, you will try to find a reason to justify something that the cop did. And this is why black folks, BIPOC in general, get so upset that we have to keep explaining things over and over, because no matter what we show, you don't want to give us the benefit of the doubt, you give it to the officer. And when things keep happening to us at alarming rates, it gets frustrating to have to keep trying to prove to you that we're not bad people. And here's the thing, at the end of this, you're either going to go silent and pretend this didn't happen, you're going to delete the comment and pretend like this didn't happen, or you're going to show the world you're truly racist and double down. So an Alabama store owner, he owns a liquor store, was being robbed. He finds the robber, holds him at gunpoint until the police show up. And the police get mad at him and break his jaw and arrest him. So on this surveillance video, there's no audio, so I'm going to walk you through. You see the owner coming back to the front of the store. The police are there. The police officer are yelling about his gun. He takes his gun and set it on the counter. He unloads it. See, he's still talking to him. He's telling him he's making it safe. He's arguing with the police right now because they're upset that he walked out with a gun. And when they get... Exactly. When he says, you guys are more worried about me than the criminal, he says he's going to file a complaint, and that was their response to him saying they were going to file a complaint. He lost a tooth, and his jaw was broken. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. That officer had 4 complaints, not 1 disciplinary action. Now, you can also find the documents for the robbery and for the lawsuit. Not only was that officer not punished again for this, that city has a long-standing history of having complaints made against officers and nothing happened. Currently, there's about 300 where nothing is being done at all in that one city. Also, because I know someone's going to say, oh, maybe they just got it confused. This was the criminal. This was the guy that broke into that businesses and about 4 others that same day. So you have a law-abiding business owner in an open carry state with a conceal and carry permit because he's a business owner, and he's charged with interfering in an investigation. An investigation against his own store for a robber that he caught. Make that make sense.
Alright, but I'm white and my family is poor, so...
What the hell that got to do with me? Mayhaps, me thinks you should build a time machine. Go back in past, meet your great-great-great peepaw, and tell him to get his money up, not his funny up, bum.
I might be the smallest in this bar. Very first. Oh, what? How you feel? Okay, that's how you feel. Oh, what? How you feel? Okay, that's how you feel. Oh.
I'm gonna show you something. Pause.
He reached up to get hold of the rope to keep it from choking him. So they let him down and broke his arms so he couldn't hang on to the rope. They pulled him up again as we went by.
In case you were wondering, you heard correctly. They were lynching a black man. He was grabbing the rope, so they put him down, broke his arms, and still lynched him. But did you see the smile on this old bitch's face? Did you see the twinkle in her goddamn eye as she was describing a lynching of a black man? That is racism, sugar. And that's a whole white woman. That's somebody Mimo.
I'm a fake real nigga and a fake deaf nigga.
That's not funny.
It's not funny? No. It's funny you say that because everybody else laughed.
Oh, 400 years of fucking slavery to these fucking people.
You're right.
That's bullshit.
No. Wait, you
Bullshit.
Hand her the mic. Wait, they jumped you. Wait, you
Sorry to enlighten you, my brother.
Wait, you said that. My brother. That's not racist at all. Got it.
I told you when I met you. I told you when I met you what I said.
Then I look like your ex-boyfriend, yeah. She used to like niggas, I guess.
Mulatto, he was half black and half white, and we fell in love.
Mulatto, that's not racist either.
Today, a white guy pulled a gun on me on the interstate all because I got in front of him, and the police say they can't do anything about it. The police said they knew who he was before even looking up his information.
Black people are naturally violent.
Why do you think that?
Because you commit all the crime in America.
Okay, well, where do you think most crime happens in America, period, regardless of race?
I guess it would be poor neighborhoods. But
okay, and how large is the black community a part of these poor communities?
Largely, but that has nothing to do with slavery. No, I'm not done. Okay, did you know that black people are 12 times more likely to be arrested for drugs? We are 50% of the exonerations in court the black because we are getting falsely arrested and charged. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Okay, well, based on the stats that you're talking about, it doesn't matter what you're saying to me. Arrest, I'm only going to believe what I want to believe. Whatever fits my agenda, we can. Black people are evil. Put that together and put an end to this ignorance. You're ignorant. You're not even listening to me.
A new report released that found that dozens of non-white Ukrainian residents who fled the conflict are now being held in long-term detention facilities in Poland and Estonia. Yeah, and some of them are being held 3 weeks or more. Here's a picture of what those detention camps are looking like. They're not pretty at all. And that photo comes to us courtesy of a joint investigation conducted by Lighthouse Reports, Independent UK, and other journalism outlets. And the experiences in these camps, they're being documented and they are harrowing. What we know is that one of the students said that they were stopped by officials as they crossed the border and were given no choice but to sign a document they did not understand before they were then taken to the camp. They did not know how long they'd be held there.
I hate that I'm making this video, but Trump was right about one specific thing. Before y'all come at me, I'm obviously not defending any of the shit he did as president. He was a dangerous man with terrible rhetoric who did a lot of horrible shit. But when the kids in cages debates were happening and all the people on cable news were like, how dare you, Mr. Trump? And Trump turned around and he's like, hey, yo, wait a minute. I didn't build the cages. We've been using the cages before. Me, Obama was using the cages. I ramped up production, but this American state. But everyone was like, The thing Trump was right about was that none of the shit he was doing was new. He was just too dumb to wrap it in a pretty bow. And so now I'm watching people get on the news and be like, I can't believe what's happening in Ukraine in a country full of beautiful white people. This is supposed to only happen in them dark countries where they speak the click-clack monkey language. And fuck Putin, but they're being mad hypocritical because they really got on to Trump about that shithole country statement. And during Biden's presidency, the military bombed 7 kids and they were like, we were tracking terrorists. And the journalists were like, we went and spoke to everybody. You just blew up 7 kids. And they're like, well, it's one of them terrorism countries. Rip. Shit's crazy. Shit's crazy.
China was tiger pum pum. Kylie Jenner used PR pum pum. Take what tiger from China pum. So China does the Kylie brother pum.
Instead of making up stats, dog, maybe you need to focus on something else. There's a little secret that, what you smoke for Hunter, dog? 4-year-old boy, gunned down. Where you smoke at? Where you smoke at for Miss Angela? Huh? Where you smoke at for her? Gunned down by a white man. Where you smoke at for Troy? Not only did he kill Troy, not only did his daddy shoot Troy, shot the dog too. You smoke at for the white man that killed Stacy. Huh? In the words of her parents, he took out a little girl. Why? Because see, his money in talking about black on black crime. Because black folks, for some reason, everything about us just makes money in capitalism. Everything just makes money. You search black on black crime, t-shirts all over. But you search that white on white crime, nothing. Truth of the matter is, y'all got problems in your own community. Ain't nobody saying that we ain't got problems in our community, but we also want to acknowledge that y'all are part of the problem with what's going on in our community. But y'all never acknowledge what's going on in your own community. Handle y'all business first.
Why do you carry that flag? Because this is my heritage. My family fought to save their farm under this flag. Who was working that farm?
There's a book called The Delectable Negro that documents the cannibalizing of black people, especially during slavery. It talks about how in white European culture, the white supremacist culture, that they've always had this thing about literally consuming black people, black flesh. During slavery, when they had the big rebellion with Nat Turner, he was cannibalized after they killed him. They ate him. During a lot of lynchings, they would cook and barbecue people, and they would actually eat the people that they would lynch. So this was something that was a part of the white supremacist culture, consuming us literally.
A lot of the mummies that was taken out of Africa was taken to Europe and sold, and they used it as medicine, and they used it as aphrodisiacs. They ate our dead people's bodies. And cannibalizing us is nothing new. That whole concept of cannibalism comes from Europe.
This is part of the European culture.
The most perverted and disgusting teacher and cop you will ever see in your natural life. Let's put up a mug shot. She's pleaded guilty because she's a monster. What did this teacher do? She has pleaded guilty to disturbing child sex crimes, including lacing cupcakes with her husband's sperm, and he was down with it, by the way, before feeding them to her students. That's the husband. He's a former deputy sheriff. Cynthia Perkins, let's go back to her. Cynthia Perkins, 36 years of age, is facing 41 years in prison after taking a plea deal on Monday in exchange for testifying against her now ex-husband, Dennis Perkins.
Sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done
to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies, and they sold them as property, and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy, that monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.
Right now. You're talking to individual. What are you gonna do? You know I can have my face. Can you have my face? Come outside. Come outside.
Oh shit!
Yo!
No, bro. Chill. Brian, get out. Brian, leave. Holy shit.
Nah, nigga, what the fuck?
Cops show up after the fight starts, and you saw who they arrested and who they protected. Any fucking questions?
If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs. Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for them. The black talent is beautiful. It's great. It's out there. So the only thing left for the whites is a couple coaching jobs.
Yeah, maybe we need to get more black coaches, don't we?
Oh, it's all right with me. Okay, well, I'm sure that they'll take over that pretty soon, too.
If you want me to tell you why there aren't any black executives, I'm not going to tell you it's because the blacks aren't intelligent enough. I'm going to tell you because it is that whites have been running the establishment of broadcasting, just as they've been running the establishment of baseball for too long, and seem to be reluctant to give up power.
But let's say what it is, that there is a sense that the black can work in the field. He can work in the cotton field, he can work on a ball field. But ask a black to use his brain, run a team, plan a team. Oh my goodness, you're talking about real integration.
Soon after emancipation, many black people started growing and selling watermelon. They used the skills they had developed during slavery to build successful businesses, and so the fruit became a symbol of freedom and prosperity for black people. In their hatred of our success, white Southerners used propaganda to denigrate the fruit and turn it into a symbol of poverty. They created ads and postcards showing black people as caricatures, eating, stealing, and fighting over watermelon in the streets, all to disparage black merchants and ultimately put them out of business. That propaganda is what led to the well-known stereotype that black people love watermelon, which still shames some black people out of eating the fruit in public to this day. But the reality is, watermelon was a symbol of our fortitude, our perseverance, our self-reliance, and our freedom. So we need to eat watermelon with pride. Eat it like our lives depend on it, because once upon a time, they did.